the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The prayer this afternoon will be offered by the good delegate representing Anne Arundel County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today I'd like to offer a reflection with our last full week of session. Please join me in acceptable posture according to your own beliefs. Each of us arrived in this year's session on January 11th with hope and aspirations to help our constituents, communities, and the great state of Maryland. Our body is often referred to as the People's House. Why is that important? Every time we conduct business, we must remember the people we represent, the people in our communities, the civic organizations, those who work every day for their families, those who care for others, the people who serve our country, our county and municipalities, the people who need help but who often do not have a voice, the people who care about Maryland and making it a better place. Let us remember that we are members of the People's House. We must finish strong to get the work done. To close, we ask everybody in the People's House to say, Amen.
Amen. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 members present, the House is now in session. Clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March the 20th, 2023.
Recognizing the Deputy Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Moves so much be considered the reading of the journal.
So ordered. Petitions, memorials, and other papers. Okay, we have some special guests who have joined us, and to recognize that guest, the sponsor, good delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the honor of appointing me to represent the General Assembly of Maryland on the board of Kennedy Krieger Institute in Baltimore. I'm constantly inspired by their work, by their tenacity, and by how they strive for excellence. And I am sure that you, my colleagues, will also be inspired by them today. Kennedy Krieger's Physically Challenged Sports Program is home to the Bennett Blazers, a year-round weekly exercise and sports program for children with disabilities. They serve over 100 kids per year and provide competitive sports on a para-Olympic model for older athletes. The varsity high school team and the prep 13 and under teams competed in the National Wheelchair Basketball Association Championships in Wichita, Kansas just last weekend. The prep team finished the 22-23 season with an 18-4 record. They won the Eastern Regional Championships and they finished 6th in the nation. The varsity team went 26 and finished 4th in the nation at this year's national tournament. So I am going to ask you to please put your hands together as we celebrate the incredible accomplishments of the Kennedy Krieger Bennett Blazers varsity and prep wheelchair basketball teams.
Will the reading clerk read both resolutions?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to the Bennett Blazers varsity team in recognition of your hard work and dedication all season and your fourth place finish in the 2023 National Wheelchair Basketball Association Championships. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this third day of April 2023. Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers sincerest congratulations to the Bennett Blazers prep team in recognition of your hard work and dedication all season and your sixth place finish in the 2023 National Wheelchair Basketball Association Championships. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this third day of April 2023.
You're quite welcome. Appointments. The clerk will read the appointments.
Resolved that the Speaker makes the following appointment: the Honorable Sarah Wallach to the Appropriations Committee. By order, Sylvia Seeger, Chief Clerk.
Hearing no objections, the appointments are adopted. Yea and nay. Consent calendar number 1. House bills passed in the Senate. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 10.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So to be considered reading of HB 10 to be considered reading all the bills in the calendar.
So ordered. Conference Committee report. House Bill 200. The clerk will read the bill and the Conference Committee report.
House Bill 200, Budget Bill, Fiscal Year 2024, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the Conference Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Conference Committee has met and has worked out its differences between the Senate and the House. It's described in the report before you on the floor system. I remind the members that despite such a significant write-down this year, the budget did preserve $2.5 billion in the rainy day fund, exceeding the goals of the Spending Affordability Committee, provided record funding for K-12 education implementation of the 2-year blueprint for Maryland's future, increased state employee salaries and funds, initiatives to facilitate recruitment and retention for the state highly competitive labor market, continues to provide vital health services, including $14 billion for Medicaid and $80 million for new investments in behavioral health, continues to provide enhancements for public safety and victim services and our state's natural resources and to address climate change. Does all of this while putting $900 million, the House position, away for the blueprint for Maryland's future, fulfilling our commitment to our children in this important initiative. Madam Speaker, I want to thank the committee members. I want to thank you. I want to thank the committee staff. I want to thank you for your leadership and mentorship in my first year as Chair of Appropriations. I would move the Conference Committee report.
The motion before the House is to adopt the Conference Committee report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Conference Committee report is adopted. House Bill 200 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 129 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 200, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Conference Committee report, House Bill 202. The clerk will read the bill and the Conference Committee report.
House Bill 202, Budget Reconciliation and Financing Act of 2023, Amendment Number 1.
Recognizing the chair of the Conference
Thank you,
Committee.
Madam Speaker. Once again, the House and Senate have worked out their very few differences in this Conference Committee report. Move the Conference Committee report.
Motion for the House is to adopt the Conference Committee report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The Conference Committee report is adopted. House Bill 202 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 123 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 202, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Special Order Calendar Number 44. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 723, Natural Resources, Forest Preservation and Retention. Favorable report is amended, adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've read the bill and my questions have been answered.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special Order Calendar Number 45. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 793, Offshore Wind Energy State Goals and Procurement Promoting Offshore Wind Energy Resources Act. Favorable report is amended, adopted.
Recognize the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment number 443-9221.
Amendment Number 1.
So much be considered, move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So the amendment is fairly simple and massive in importance. There's the insertion of words in two parts of the bill where it talks about mitigating the impacts of the construction and operation of the offshore wind on fisheries and the environment. Neither of those include marine life, wildlife, and their habitat. So we'd be clarifying that there. And then where it talks about providing financial and technical assistance to support the monitoring and mitigation of impacts to the project, we're doing clarifying language that includes fisheries, the people that are actually making a living on the water, marine life, wildlife, habitat, and environmental impacts. And I think these are important words to insert here. I honestly don't know how we've gotten this far along in the project without talking about it. We're talking about offshore wind energy that's going to put wind turbines out there almost 900 feet tall. I don't know how many people look at the skyline in Ocean City when they're driving over the Route 90 bridge or the Route 50 bridge and look at the massive buildings there. I mean, they're just, it's it's just amazing to see the buildings as you drive into Ocean City. But these buildings, the tallest building in Ocean City is Century 1, which is 253 feet. That's a fraction of what we're talking about putting out there. And when we're putting these windmills in the ocean, we're talking about disturbing an area on the ocean floor of approximately a quarter acre per turbine. And who knows how many turbines are going to be there when this is all said and done. So we think about this. We build a building on land, and we're talking about doing protection for birds and so forth from flying into it. But yet we have these turbines go in the ocean, and we've left out language for marine life and wildlife and habitat. So I think it's important that we do this. And we hear so much of different things that come from the ocean. The ocean's a big place. A lot of things live there. Think about the horseshoe crabs. I mean, the importance of biomed, the horseshoe crabs to the biomed industry is just amazing. Every injectable, every vaccination we get is tested with the blood from these horseshoe crabs. So I think with that, everyone could understand the importance. I ask for a green vote on this. Madam Speaker, I ask you to move the amendment.
Madam Speaker.
Floor Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me begin by thanking the good delegate for his concern for wildlife. I do have a few other bills on that topic this session, and so I hope we can count on your votes for those as well. I also appreciate the focus on really making sure that we're caring for all the species in the ocean whenever we're doing anything within the ocean sphere. Let me start with the reassuring news to the body, which is that BOEM and NOAA are on it. As it turns out, the development of the offshore wind is in federal waters. So anything past 3 miles off of the coast is federal waters and is not within our jurisdiction. So in fact, anything that we might pass here wouldn't put additional requirements on our wind developers. But the good news is that NOAA and BOEM are on it. And specifically, the federal NEPA process, which is what this falls under, includes the National Marine Fisheries Service, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, which considers the Endangered Species Act, and the Magnuson-Stevens Fishery Conservation Management Act, and in fact, the National Historic Preservation Act. And they have to demonstrate, the developers have to demonstrate that they've engaged in best practice management, which includes seafloor habitats, marine mammals, fish resources, essential fish habitats, sea turtles, avian resources, acoustic environment, fisheries, coastal habitat, electromagnetic fields, transportation and vessel traffic, and visual resources. So you can see there's a very thorough process, and it is not within our jurisdiction. The very narrow portion of the bill that references marine habitats we put in is related to the DGS procurement of offshore wind. And what it simply does is it asks the developers to share with us the same documents that they are sharing with BOEM and NOAA and all of those who are responsible for handling this in a much more comprehensive way than we do as a state. And we worked out that language with the National Wildlife Federation, and we crafted the specific words very carefully to make sure that we were consistent with and not in conflict with the federal law. So what we'll be able to do in this state is we'll be able to see the plans that are filed with the federal government. We'll be able to sort of be reassured that they're there, but we won't be responsible because we couldn't be responsible because we are not responsible for the waters that are more than 3 miles outside of our coast. So for all those reasons, I would ask the body to trust the experts on this, trust the National Wildlife Federation. The language that we have in the bill is the language that aligns us with the very good and very comprehensive work that is done by the federal government, and resist this amendment. Thank you.
Recognizing the maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So could the floor leader rise for a question? So if we're producing all this energy out in the ocean, and you're saying that it doesn't involve our Maryland waters because it's more than 3 miles, so we're just going to leave that electric out there? Is it coming ashore? I mean, there's going to be disturbance within 3 miles. Wouldn't you agree?
So there will be transmission, and there is a section of the bill that is related to transmission. The section that you are putting this amendment on is related to the development of the turbines and the DGS procurement of those turbines. And so that is what is under the jurisdiction of BOEM, working with NOAA and all these other agencies that I've just described.
So now I'm a little more confused. So if the section I'm looking at applies to the federal waters, why did we get involved then and create the language that we have, leaving out marine life and wildlife? Why do we get involved in protecting the fisheries that are more than 3 miles off and so forth?
The language that's in the bill, in the section that you've got this amendment written to, is what the DGS procurement is going to ask the developers to include in their proposals to DGS. And what it is essentially going to do is say to them, take those documents that you're sending to the federal government and these federal agencies, and also include them in your application to the state of Maryland, because we want to see them, we want to know they're there, we want to be able to reference them, we want to be reassured by them. But honestly, DGS is not in a position to evaluate them because that expertise is within the federal government. And so we want to see them, we want to know they're there, we want them as part of the record, but we're not in a position really to evaluate them or to change them.
So if this is suggestive language, why wouldn't we want to be all-encompassing? Because right now, the way this is written, we're leaving a lot out. The ocean's a huge place, and a lot of things live there, and a lot of things have huge importance to us. And I don't know over how many years we've started with different wind energy projects like this, but there's several under construction. There's a few in operation, and I do know that right now there are some things that are happening that we don't understand. And I think us moving forward without having a full understanding of what's happening to marine life and other things, since a little longer than we've been here, since December 1st, I'm sure everyone's heard about the number of whales that are washing ashore dying, whales, dolphins, other things. We have no clear understanding. I know the response is going to be that it's unconclusive, there's nothing to say that it's not. So we have 30 dead whales, we have dolphins and other sea life dying. We don't know if the whales' biosonar is being thrown off by this other mammals. So all I'm saying, if you truly care about the environment, like you suggested, standing up and asking me to support other bills, let's support this. Let's add that clarifying language. Let's make sure we're not causing harm to our environment. If you're saying it's not necessary, it's not going to change anything, then what's the problem in adding it?
Thanks for the question. Let me actually address two things that you raised. First, I just want to, it's really important that when an inaccurate piece of information is stated on the House floor that we clarify that immediately. So I want to start by getting back to what you said about whales. And I have here the statement that I asked for from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It's a 2-page document that I'm happy to share with you, but it does say that at this point there is no evidence to support the theory that noise resulting from wind development surveys, there's a long sentence, has any relationship with the mortality of whales. Furthermore, they talk about the vessels, and they talk about the fact that there is zero evidence that vessels associated with offshore wind have any relationship with the whale mortality. They describe the studies they're doing on whale mortality and other things that may be causing that, but they, under no uncertain terms, indicate that it is not offshore wind development. So that's the first thing that I want to make sure we have accurate in this conversation. Second, your question seemed to be, because we care about all these species, the ones that I listed that get considered in the federal process, why wouldn't we just add these other species as well? And I appreciate that, and the reason that I'm suggesting we shouldn't do that is because we crafted the language that is in here very precisely with the National Wildlife Federation, with the National Aquarium, in consultation with and engaging with the federal agencies to make sure that there's nothing in our bill that contradicts, overrides, suggests something other than a consistency with the federal government. So I know a good bit about energy. I'm learning a lot more about wildlife, but I don't know enough that I would say that I know more than the National Wildlife Federation, the National Aquarium, NOAA, and BOEM, such that I would start adding words without a full understanding. And for those reasons, I urge the body to resist this amendment.
Well, if I may say, wildlife doesn't include marine life. Every definition I've looked at, if we talk about wildlife, it's not inclusive of marine life. And to back up, I didn't misspeak on the whale deaths. I said it would probably be stated that it's inconclusive. And unfortunately, there's nothing showing, that it is. My understanding, the whales that have washed ashore, they've been so decomposed or bloated or whatever, they can't do some parts in the necropsy that would actually show if their biosonar is working and so forth. So it's still unknown. And, we have, as I mentioned, horseshoe crabs, 445 million years old, older than dinosaurs in their form that they are right now. And so important to what we're doing right now for our biomedicine and everything else. There are just so many reasons that we need to be all-inclusive. And Madam Speaker, I ask you to move the amendment.
And on the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Recognizing the gentlelady from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've just gotten this amendment from the drafting office, so I have provided it to the floor leader on it, and if she wants, we could move the bill back farther, or the amendment back farther in the day, if you need a chance, or you want me to go ahead now?
That's okay. I just got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. I have an amendment at the desk, Madam Speaker, amendment number 233121/1.
Amendment number 1.
So much to be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Body, this amendment is really, really simple. I'm just going to sort of read it to you so that everybody can understand it. So this basically says that before we install any offshore wind transmission, that we need to have the Public Service Commission complete a study and submit that report to us, so that we can compare the cost and benefits of the wind versus expanding and modernizing our fabulous Calvert Cliffs nuclear power plant. For those who haven't done a lot of research into this topic, it is a very interesting topic. Nuclear is absolutely incredible. It provides us very, very, very good energy that is very low carbon emissions. So if we're truly moving towards a net zero carbon state, nuclear is a wonderful, wonderful option. We already have it. All of you are likely benefiting in some way or another because Calvert Cliffs exists in our state. And I would love to see us work on expanding it, modernizing it, and making it the very best that it can be, because it doesn't come with some of the concerns that the wind comes with and some of the inefficiencies of solar. I have a house covered in solar. It pays about 50% of our electrical costs, but it doesn't really work when it snows, and it doesn't really work when it's gray outside. It's not as efficient. Nuclear is massively efficient. It is absolutely something that we should be working towards, and when it's done safely, as it almost always is, it has got almost no negative impact on the surrounding areas and communities. So for all of those reasons, I would urge the body to support this study. I know how we all love studies. So please support this study, because it's information that I think will help inform us as we move forward and we try to get Maryland to a place where it's operating with the most efficient and clean energy possible.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you for bringing up the issue of considering all of the options. We are considering all the options, and the good news is we've already gotten started on this, because the Climate Solutions Now bill required a study of nuclear. So this is not necessary. We'll get a report back even sooner than we would have if we adopted this amendment. So I urge the body to reject the amendment.
Maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would love to ask a few questions about that, if you have a sec.
Floor leader.
Yep. Your chair is very excited about you answering these questions. He's got your back. So if you could just tell me a little bit about that study, what it encompasses, and when it's the reports are due back, I would love to know.
Do you want to get some info? Yeah, well, so we authorized it as part of Climate Solutions Now Act, and I think that we expect the report back at the end of this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And I think it's a relatively comprehensive study. It's supposed to include costs and benefits, and also I think it includes the question about not just Calvert Cliffs, which is obviously an important question that provides a significant amount of energy to us right now, but also the possibility of small modular nuclear reactors and other possibilities that may be coming online. And so we'll have a comprehensive answer to that. I'm waiting to get exactly when we get that back, but I think it's at the end of this year.
Okay.
It is.
Okay,
at the
your
end of this
chair
year.
says that it is. All right, well, I'm excited to see what that comes to. Who did they include? Like, who was on the study work? Is it a work group or just a study?
It actually it's a study, so it's not a work group. It's a study where a Public Service Commission will be hiring experts to do the study for us.
Okay, and they haven't started yet, or?
No, I think they're in process.
They're in the
yeah.
process now. Oh, and somebody's asking me if it's mandated. It's mandated that
It's
they have to do
mandated.
this.
It's part of the law, Climate Solutions Now Act. We passed
Okay.
it last year. Yep.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for answering that. In which case, I will withdraw my amendment.
Okay,
I look forward
great.
to reading
Thank
the
you.
study.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Special order calendar number 46. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 781, Offshore Wind Energy State Goals and Procurement, Promoting Offshore Wind Energy Resources Act. Favorable report is amended, adopted.
Recognizing the maker of the motion.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think we resolved it on the, not resolved it, but addressed it on the House bill.
Senate Bill 781. Any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Appropriations, report number 18. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 797, Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, Collective Bargaining Agreement Implementation, Dispute Arbitration. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Who's the floor leader?
My
Recognizing the
apologies.
floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My apologies. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 makes clarifying change to an existing statute. More specifically, the amendment changes a requirement that economic provisions be subject to funding by the Montgomery County and Prince George's County Councils to instead require that certain items that require an appropriation or have a fiscal impact be subject to approval by the county councils. Please move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 1298, Prior Authorizations of State Debt Alterations. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the Vice Chair of the Committee.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
There was one amendment. The amendment reflects the request taken by the Department of Legislative Services for changes to prior capital budget authorizations. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 148, Victim Services Program, Supplementing Federal Funding and Support Victim Services Stabilization Act. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Amendment 1 clarifies the rules around the usage of VOCA funds and prohibits their use for capital projects. Amendment 2 clarifies the total aggregate funding amount and the reporting requirements for the agency. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now to adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 617, Maryland Transit Administration Fair Price Requirements, Alterations, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Economic Matters, report number 22. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 149, Maryland Electricians Act, revisions, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 955, Vehicle Laws, Manufacturers and Dealers Incentives, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 conforms this bill to SB 742. It strikes the language that requires certain entities to offer certain incentives to all dealers of the same line make, and strikes the language that requires certain entities to offer certain incentives to purchasers of vehicles of the same line make. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 988, Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program, modifications, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much to be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 restores the original notification process and the language regarding the program benefits for a covered individual's serious health condition. Amendment number 3 establishes a cap of 1.2 on the total rate of contribution and extends implementation deadline. Amendment number 4 and 5 alters the definition of wages and clarifies certain reimbursement processes. Specifies that participating insurance have a certificate issued by an insurance commissioner and requires the Maryland Department of Labor to promulgate regulations by a certain date. Please move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now to adoption of favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title?
Madam Speaker.
It's going to call on you. Recognize the gentleman from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to request a special order for the purpose of amendment to the appropriate time tomorrow.
Committee Chair.
It's fine.
Question for the House, a special order, House Bill 988 to the appropriate time tomorrow. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The bill has been special ordered to the appropriate time tomorrow. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 90, Commercial Law, Consumer Protection, Telephone Solicitation, Stop the Spam Calls Act of 2023. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the floor leader.
So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 strikes an exemption. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 429, Business Regulation, Home Improvement Commission Guarantee Fund and Award Limits. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 555, Fair Wage Act of 2023, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 742, Vehicle Laws, Manufacturers and Dealers, Allocation of Vehicles, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 828, Family and Medical Leave Insurance Program, modifications, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Please move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendment is adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Gentleman from Harvard.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For the purpose of keeping the bills in the same legislative posture, I'd like to request a special order to the appropriate time tomorrow.
That's fine, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House of Special Orders, Senate Bill 928 to the appropriate time tomorrow. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The bill has been special ordered to the appropriate time tomorrow. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 928, Insurance Credit for Reinsurance Model Law, Reciprocal Jurisdictions, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Environment and Transportation, report number 19. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 1235, Real Estate Brokerage Services and Termination of Residential Real Estate Contracts, the Anthony Mormon Act, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 262, Environment On-Farm Composting Facilities Permit Exemption, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 335, Real Property Unlawfully Restrictive Covenants, Modifications by Counties or Municipalities, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 407, Drinking Water Indirect Potable Reuse Pilot Program Establishment, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 524, Garrett County Board of County Commissioners Meetings, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 545, Towing or Removal of Vehicles Reclamation Hours, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass the third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 651, real estate brokerage services, and termination of residential real estate contracts, the Anthony Mormon Act, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 679, Anne Arundel County Speed Monitoring Systems, residential districts, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 685, vehicle laws, autonomous vehicle converters, sale of autonomous vehicles, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 693, transportation, assaults on public transit operators, report, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Environment and Transportation, report number 20. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 872, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, service in regional transit districts in Prince George's County, contracts, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Chair, Madam Speaker.
Floor leader.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
This emergency bill authorizes the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission to contract with the District of Columbia or the District of Columbia Water and Sewer Authority for construction, maintenance, and operation of a water supply, sewer, or drainage system by the District of Columbia or the D.C. Water and Sewer Authority to serve a border property. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 defines a border property for the purpose of the bill and makes conforming changes. It adds to and clarifies the required elements that must be included in a contract and provides for prospective application of the bill and a sunset after 5 years. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 873, Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, Commissioner qualifications and General Manager voting powers, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Bill 873, as amended, requires that at least one suburban WSSC commissioner appointed for Prince George's County to meet specified qualifications. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 limits the application of the bill's provisions to Prince George's County, alters and adds to the methods by which an individual may be qualified to serve as a commissioner, and strikes the grant of additional voting powers to the general manager of WSSC. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 102, Natural Resources, Recreational Crabbing Gear, Individuals under the age of 16 years. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Be so much considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. SB 102 is being amended to be in the same posture as HB 465. Committee amendment authorizes the use of hand lines or dip nets. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 157, Municipalities Charter Amendments. Notice. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senate Bill 157, move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendment is technical and corrects a drafting error. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 327, Hunting, Wildlife, Conservation, and Outdoor Recreation, Funding, Promotion, Management, and Licenses, Permits, and Stamps. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Be so much consider the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As amended, SB 327 is being amended in the same posture as HB 983. Committee amendment conforms HB 983 by striking language including state park system lands in a certain hunting study. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just have one question on the bill. So the original bill I saw or had heard some controversy on as it relates to wildfowl. Could you tell me whether that was addressed, and if so, how?
Yes, so the Sunday hunting for waterfowl was removed from the House bill as well as the Senate bill.
Okay. Was that was the biggie that I think I heard?
That was the biggie, yes.
Okay.
But this particular amendment, just to clarify, in the House version, on page 12, line 9, we had in the House stripped the entire, including state park system lands and hunting on state land as it related to feasibility of implementing a rotating closure for hunting. In the Senate, they struck half that, so we are conforming it to what we did in the House.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're quite welcome.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 422, Natural Resources Black Bass Conservation Fund Establishment. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Be so much consider the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As amended, SB 422 conforms to HB 696. Committee amendment provides for the investment and the interest earnings of the fund. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next. Report of the Committee on Environment and Transportation. Clerk will read the first bill. Report number 21.
Senate Bill 222, Environment, Reducing Packaging Materials, Producer Responsibility. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing Vice Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 strikes language that would have established an ongoing statewide recycling needs assessment and instead makes it a one-time requirement, alters definitions under the bill, and strikes language that would have established the required framework for producer responsibility for packaging materials and instead requires the Advisory Council to make recommendations on establishing and implementing a producer responsibility program. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operations, report number 24. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 319, pesticide registration, PFAS testing requirements. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds co-sponsors and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 strikes the provisions of the bill that prohibited the Secretary of Agriculture from registering a pesticide for use against mosquitoes in the state, and instead requires the Department of Agriculture to study the use of PFAS and pesticides in the state. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 354, Maryland Achieving a Better Life Experience ABLE Program, Account Establishment Procedures. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 changes the effective date of the bill to June 1st, 2023. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 703, Public Health Parkinson's Disease Registry established. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Amendment number 1 adds co-sponsors, makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 strikes the establishment of a Parkinson's disease registry that was required by the original bill. Requires the Parkinson's Disease Registry Advisory Committee to meet at least quarterly, and requires the Maryland Department of Health to establish a website that includes specific information on Parkinson's disease in the state by October 1, 2023. Move the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 1155, Work Group on Establishing a Youth Co-Designed Integrated Behavioral Health Model. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds co-sponsors and extends by 1 year the effective dates for the development of a pilot program and the final report of the work group. Move the amendments, please.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operations, report number 25. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 26, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, Maryland Children's Health Program, and Work Group on Low-Income Utility Assistance. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 188, Public Health Rare Disease Advisory Council. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 258, Hospital Credentialing Reappointment Process for Physician Staff Modification. Favorable.
The question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 283, Mental Health Workforce Development Fund established. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 extends the submission deadline for the Behavioral Health Workforce Needs Assessment to October 15th, 2024. Move the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 343, Maryland Achieving a Better Life Experience ABLE Program Account Establishment Procedures. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 362, Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinics Planning Grant Funds and Demonstration Application. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 511, Health and Human Services Transportation Improvement Act of 2023. Favorable.
Question for the House is adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 584, Public Health, Parkinson's Disease Advisory Committee and Website. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much be considered the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Amendment number 1 requires the Parkinson's Disease Registry Advisory Committee to meet at least quarterly and extends a report deadline to July 1, 2024. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 608, Human Services Maryland Statewide Independent Living Council. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 794, Behavioral Health Programs, Residential Programs, Food Service Facility Requirements. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 members present, The House is still in session. The clerk will read the first bill on the calendar of third reading, House Bills number 90.
House Bill 230, Department of the Environment, Zero-Emission Medium and Heavy-Duty Vehicles Regulations, Clean Trucks Act of 2023.
He's on third reading and final passes. Is there any debate? The gentleman from Calvert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a couple more questions. I know we talked about this a lot the other day, but for the floor leader.
Sure.
Vice Chair of the committee.
Thank you. So good evening, or good afternoon. I'm not sure what it is. Yeah, it's afternoon. Okay. Do we know what this particular bill deals with heavy trucks and medium and heavy trucks for zero emission, making sure that there are zero emission trucks in the state? So my question is, do we know what the grid costs are going to be upgrading the grid?
No, but that's part of the needs assessment to be done.
Okay, so who would do the needs assessment?
Let me pull out the bill.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
The Department of the Environment in coordination with other agencies.
Okay, so NDE would do the grid assessment to see if the grid is sufficient to be able to support the recharging, I guess, equipment that would need to be installed across the state for these huge trucks.
Yes.
Okay. And the money that is being transferred to I guess it's the manufacturer, or is it being transferred to the dealers for the credits?
You mean for the funds to help with the purchase of electric, medium, or heavy-duty trucks?
Yes.
Yeah, that funding is to be applied for by the purchaser.
Okay, so a purchaser would go to a dealer to purchase a heavy-duty or medium-sized truck that is zero emissions, and then, in theory, the dealer would provide them a rebate, but that rebate would be ultimately coming from the state of Maryland? Or
that's right, from the state.
Okay, so the taxpayers would be paying for that?
The funding comes from the SIF, or SIF, depending on how you pronounce it.
Right, so ultimately taxpayers. And I guess my other question is there anything that is in the bill that requires a study on the increase of electricity prices to the ratepayers?
Not specifically, but presumably that would be part of the needs assessment with respect to capacity. And Delegate, if you don't mind, just to clarify, when I say the SIF, I mean, so that is not funding, that is not taxpayer money per se.
Okay, and where is that money coming from?
That comes through the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative program, largely.
And who provides SIF the money?
Power companies.
Okay, and the power companies get their money from the ratepayers. So the ratepayers are paying it, which means it's a tax. So I guess my question is, and I guess you kind of in part answered it, that there's nothing in the bill that actually specifically states that we would study what the increase would be in rates for electricity, how much more it would cost the ratepayers to build all of this stuff.
Not specifically as called for by the bill, but again, presumably that would be part of the capacity study with respect to the grid. That's part of the needs assessment that MDE would do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Just on the bill, Madam Speaker, briefly, I know we had a lot of discussion about this bill, but the bill essentially provides taxpayer dollars for individuals to purchase zero-emission medium and heavy trucks, and those trucks would be more than likely, I guess, electric trucks, and those electric trucks would then require a substantial grid increase, a grid upgrade. BG&E has indicated that the grid upgrade would cost approximately $60 billion in the state of Maryland, just for their territory. And that would be to satisfy the requirements in their territory of bills such as this. In addition to that, that $60 billion comes from somewhere, and it comes from the ratepayers. So BG&E builds the grid and upgrades the grid, and then in addition to that, they go to the PSC, and then they ask for the PSC for an increase in rates to be able to pay for this. And then I also wanted to address what we heard, I think it was on last week, I believe it was Friday, but namely that the business community supports the bill. The business community being, I presume, the dealers and then the manufacturer that's in Western Maryland. And I just looked at the tape again earlier, and the quote was made by the chairman of the committee that sometimes the business community just needs to learn to take yes for an answer. And that was the quote verbatim, because I watched it on video. And to me, that kind of quote is so inappropriate, because essentially what we're saying is that any business in Maryland, if we put a gun to their head, then they have to bow down and do what we say or else. So of course they're going to say yes. And that to me is the very definition of crony capitalism. When we have bills that I believe effectively extort the business community into providing certain preferences in technology. And that really is the main reason why I stood up, is because of the fact that we're being prescriptive in the kind of technology that we're supposed to be using in the state. And we're saying that no other technology matters. We're going to be prescriptive with respect to policy and money, and saying this is the only technology that we are going to acknowledge that is the right technology. And what I'm saying is that we all know that technology changes all the time. By definition, it keeps changing every day. And so once we get too far into this grid upgrade and the $60 billion upgrade that BG&E and Pepco are going to be required to do, and once we have unsustainable electricity prices, I mean, they already are difficult, the electricity prices in Maryland, I think people are going to look at this bill and say, isn't it funny that the federal government put funding in their bill to get additional rebates for people to buy electric vehicles, and they called that the Inflation Reduction Act, when in fact your electricity prices are going up. It's not an Inflation Reduction Act. It is an Inflation Act in and of itself. And it is prescriptive of one and only one kind of technology. And that is, buy an electric car or else. And this body has continued to go down that path with bills that propose to give the bureaucracy in Maryland all kinds of power to do things like banning electric stoves, banning gas stoves, excuse me. You can only buy an electric stove. Banning gas fireplaces, banning gas furnaces, banning gas leaf blowers, one of my personal favorites, banning oil furnaces, banning cow flatulence. I mean, these are the bills that we're seeing. And they're one after another giving the bureaucracy the power to ban these things. And to me, that is not the way a free society operates. A free society operates letting people make free choices and decide for themselves whether they want to cook with an electric stove or a gas stove, or they want to use one kind of car or one kind of truck or another. So it should come as no surprise that I'm not voting for this bill. But again and again, we see these banning bills. And banning, to me, when you ban, effectively, that's what this bill does, and I mean this sincerely, that means you're with the Luddites. You're anti-technology. You fear new technology. You fear innovation, because there's only one way to go, and that's your way or the highway. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think it's important for me to correct the record with respect to what I said. I was not referring to my fellow business people when I said that they should take yes for an answer. I was instead referring vaguely to conservative politicians who should take yes for an answer. And I think that was very clearly understood by practically everybody who spoke to me about that after I said it. The fact of the matter is, this is a bill that does have the support of the business community. It has the support of the one electric car manufacturer in our state, and they are in Western Maryland. It has the support of the Motor Truck Association. It has the support of the dealers. And let me just talk about this a little bit as a business person myself. I had to do it again. I had to actually cut a check for $7,000 for fuel for our vehicles. We have 5 box trucks. We have 5 pickup. Now we have five pickup trucks and 3 vans, and it's a lot of fuel cost. And I honestly would like to be able to buy 1 electric box truck just to start running the numbers to see how it performs, given the fact that the maintenance costs, which actually I had to cut a check last week for $4,000 for vehicle maintenance, not repair, maintenance. I would love to be able to buy one of these vehicles and run the numbers, see what it's like to pay 1/6 the cost per mile in fuel and to pay a fraction for maintenance. As a business person, I think that's a useful thing for my company. So, Madam Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the House, this is a bill that the Environment and Transportation Committee and the Economic Matters Committee have considered very carefully in balancing off all of the options. And yeah, I think when we as a committee and as a legislature go to the length of doing what the business community wanted in the language of this bill, I think all of us should be proud of that and acknowledge that this is part of the future of not just our state and the United States, but of the entire world. And with that, Madam Speaker, I would ask everyone to vote for House Bill 230.
Madam Speaker.
Vice Chair of the Economic Matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to clarify for everybody that this doesn't use taxpayer dollars. It doesn't use ratepayer dollars. It takes money out of the proceeds of the RGGI auction, which is essentially an auction for states that have bound together, and companies pay in on a blind bid to pollute. And if they're using an energy source that isn't clean, then that auction then yields a result. This year, Maryland, is going to benefit to the tune of $132 million, and we take that money and we reinvest it into our economy in programs such as like Empower, right, to make homes more cleaner or to incentivize electrification or cleaner sources of energy. That way we can build out a more cleaner future. And so that's the whole purpose of the RGGI funds and the RGGI fund auction. It doesn't take any money, again, from ratepayers or taxpayers. So I just want to clarify that because that is not correct.
Madam Speaker. Gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Would the Vice Chair please rise? I had a question about your comments on RGGI.
Which Vice Chair?
Oh, sorry, this one. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Good afternoon. So where does RGGI come from? Doesn't it come from our utility rates?
No, it comes from essentially companies, like let's say there was a coal-fired plant and they wanted to pollute, right? They bid into an auction. It is a blind auction. I think it's the top 11 bids are all sealed, and then they go with whatever the 12th bid was, and then that is the rate set for the first 11 who have bid in, and that's the rate for the entire program. Ultimately, the proceeds then go back to the state.
But doesn't that coal-fired power plant that you're just speaking of have to charge higher rates to recoup that money? I mean, the money isn't magic. It comes from somewhere. So power producers that you're charging a RGGI fee to have to get that money from somewhere, and the only place they get money from is ratepayers.
No, but...
Do they print money?
No, that would be incorrect. So it doesn't have a direct impact on the rate in and of itself, and this is how they've done business, and this is how it's built into their model. But no, there's no direct impact on the RGGI auction into the rate. It's not baked into your rate at all.
So how does that coal-fired power plant that you just spoke of, that needs to pay into RGGI, where do they get the money that they pay into RGGI?
Yeah, from their profits.
So from the money they generate, which comes from ratepayers.
Yeah, I mean, they're selling it into a market. So, I mean, that's your answer.
Yes, the answer is every dollar that the power generators get comes from ratepayers. And if some of the money that ratepayers pay is into a profit, then probably your retirement account is benefiting from that. But for power companies to get money, they cannot print it. They get it from the people they charge for power.
Yes. Go ahead.
Madam Speaker, I have a question for the floor leader.
Floor leader, Vice Chair to commence.
So last week we had a very good debate about this bill, and I remember, and it actually just came up in this debate, that this has a lot of support from the business community. I believe the chairman of the committee mentioned that as well. The last time I checked, agriculture is the #1 industry in the state of Maryland. I know the Farm Bureau has been against this. I know the grain producers are against this. I know the chicken industry is against this. I've received a number of phone calls and emails from the farmers within my district about this bill. So was that considered at all, their concern, their testimony? And what is it that I can go back to them and say, this is what we've done to help our farmers in Maryland?
The bill does not cover off-road vehicles like farm equipment.
Awesome. Thank you.
Gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And briefly on the bill, last week I talked about the element of the bill that was concerning to the extent that I wanted to offer an amendment and talk about how we're sourcing the materials. I've looked at what California is doing. So we were talking about current events, both nationally and in California advancing laws just like this. And the trucks that we're talking about cost at a start around $100,000 and can reach high six figures to buy equipment like this. The infrastructure, as you well know, is simply not there to recharge these vehicles now, nor into the immediate or frankly distant future. There is a $40,000 tax credit. We talked about tax credits last week. A $40,000 tax credit is part of the Inflation Reduction Act to help afford these things. But let me just say, the starting price of one of these trucks, that $100,000, I know what that is, and I love Ford. I've got a Ford Mustang. It's one of these Ford Lightnings, and I got to tell you, when I see one of those vehicles, all the credit to Ford for doing it. But people that buy medium and heavy-duty trucks buy them not because they're toys, but because they're tools. They have a job to do. They need to work every day of the week so they can make money. Truck drivers that drive hundreds and thousands of miles a week need reliable transportation. The technology is simply not there to achieve that. And this tool that I'm talking about is driven our economy. And while my colleague next to me talked about the farmers, we still have trucks that go on the road every day that have to be reliable, dependable, or else we simply don't have an industry. And one of the remarks that's coming from California is the idea that that the business community doesn't support this. Now, Volvo might, because they're on the front end of this technology, and I think they've made a business decision. Whether it pays off for them or not is really secondary to the conversation. We're talking about putting in place regulations now and into the future that feel aspirational. But I can tell you, in talking with the committee chairman and the floor leader, this is an intentional bill that has an aim, and I'm not necessarily against the aim. The question is now the right time? But let me just read from this article, because I like reading from CNN and about issues like this that are current events in California. But the quote coming from the truckers in the industry is that the cost and difficulty of complying with their state regulations would be overwhelming. Quote, a lot of the California truck rules that have been adopted and enacted recently are starting to push truck drivers out of the state. Drivers don't want to work in California anymore. They're skeptical of the rapid timeline on this transition to electric trucks. Can a trucker get a charge that will take them on a highway for 2 to 3 days? And is this technology ready for prime time? So again, we talk about buying Teslas. I don't know whether I'd be in the market for a Tesla or not. Maybe it's time to trade my Mustang in and try out something new. I'm not against that. It's my money. Do what I want. But you know what? If that Tesla stops working, I don't stop working. You take my pickup truck from me that can tow 2 pallets of cement, and that stops working, all of a sudden I can't operate. The tool of the trade, if you're a workman, is your truck. The tool of the trade, if you're a truck driver, is that cab and that truck doing interstate commerce. This bill, and I'm sure I'm going to hear, hey, look, this is forward-looking and it's got a date somewhere in the future, but please, if we're going to do things like this,
we can and should do things in a realistic way. I keep saying this word aspirational because more and more legislation that I see come through here speaks to things that we want multiple years, if not decades into the future, and they don't relate to what's happening today, but I'll tell you what it does relate to: the cost of doing business today, the inability for businesses to predict the environment that they're working in when we pass bills like this, and frankly, the cost to the ratepayers we've talked about earlier, to the taxpayer. We as a state should be really careful when we pass bills like this, because this is, again, not something related to an emerging technology that frankly, if somebody has $100,000 to buy a cool new dual motor Tesla, can go do that. This is something where instead of spending $40,000 or $50,000 or $60,000 for a medium-sized truck, I'll say to you that the Ford Lightning, I think, is a six-figure vehicle. That's not a workman's vehicle. That's not a truck that you use to do a job. That's a truck to take out and show your friends that you got something that's really fast, because I think it's fast, really cool because there aren't many of these around, but you're not going to use that vehicle to do day-to-day business in the marketplace. And frankly, even if you could, would you afford it? I mean, would you pay that money to have that vehicle around? And what would happen if you had to go to Lancaster, Pennsylvania to pick up material, go to Baltimore City to pick up material, get 2 or 3 hours away from your home base and realize all of a sudden I can't charge this, I can't get this back through, and I'm just worried about a bill like this. I'm going to close by saying last week I talked about the Biden administration and the Treasury. Do not forget the principle here that the federal government is making decisions that I think are pragmatic and realistic in the world that we live in today. And they're saying to these manufacturers that you have to be able to certify the vehicles that you're selling are free from rare earth minerals that come from countries that we are choosing as a federal government not to align with. Yet, what vehicle are we making today that would actually comply with those federal regulations? The answer is, from the information I've been able to read on this, not one vehicle will be able to meet those requirements right now. And it's a great conversation and it's a great debate happening in Washington, which means let them sort it out, bring this back next year, maybe 2 years from now, and have a conversation after we as a state and a country have come to a better conclusion about what bills like this mean to the business community and our country. Thank you. I'm voting against the bill.
Vice Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just to follow up about one point about the price points for medium-duty vehicles. The medium-duty pickup truck, the Ford E-Transit, starts around $52,000. I'm sorry, it's a van. It's a delivery van. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the floor leader please rise for a question?
Vice Chair of the Committee.
Hey, good afternoon. I picked up on something you told my colleague from the Eastern Shore when they were asking about the agricultural community opposing this bill, and you said farm equipment wasn't part of it. But I'm reading the Maryland Farm Bureau's letter who opposes this bill, and their concern isn't about tractors. Their concern is about delivering their products. In the letter, it says agriculture affected as farmers need to move their crops, livestock, poultries, and agricultural products from the farm to the processing facilities. Now, is their concern valid that with this bill it's going to raise food cost?
No, I don't believe so. I mean, from Maryland Department of the Environment, off-road vehicles like farm equipment are not covered, even if they go onto the road, if they go into the highway.
The trucks that are used to transport livestock, poultry, agricultural products, crops, that is in this bill, and that is a requirement, correct?
If they would typically consider it to be a medium or heavy-duty truck, then yes.
I mean, how else would you get a trailer full of cows to the slaughter plant?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
How else would you get a trailer full of cows to the slaughter plant?
Will the floor leader yield for a response?
Madam Speaker.
Do you have a response?
Not yet. Still checking.
The sponsor?
To the sponsor. If I could yield to the sponsor.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Nobody's mandated to buy these trucks. Full stop. If a farmer wants to continue to use their diesel truck, they may.
But you're eliminating them, correct?
No. Not at all.
Okay. This year. When does the bill go into a complete
Ever.
effect?
They never get to 100%.
Well,
This is an incentive for manufacturers to manufacture clean trucks. Nothing in this bill says that gas or diesel engines cannot be produced. Nothing in this bill says anybody has to buy a clean truck.
Does it tie to the California air pollution restrictions?
Yes.
So
But
if
again-
California says we're going to ban trucks, this would ban trucks automatically?
No.
Is that what it would do?
No, that's not what California law does. Ours is identical to California, and all it does is set up an incentive.
Gotcha. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
And I'm sorry for this, but I just wanted to respond in kind. You know, in e-transit, and again, I'm an owner of Ford vehicles, so just please understand, an e-transit van is as much a toy as the F-150 Lightning. It is a quarter-ton van that could be used to deliver cakes, I guess, used to deliver some papers. But I'll tell you what you don't do. You don't buy a Ford Transit van in a 3/4 or 1-ton variety to do the job and have that also have this electric battery. The colleague in St. Mary's was talking about something, and I think it's worth noting. The articles that are being written right now that relate to California do relate to what's happening here in Maryland. It does relate, because in that state by 2030, they are mandating heavy percentages of vehicles that are sold in that state be electric. And this bill does, I think, the same thing, but at the end of the day, what happens if you don't meet this mandate as a manufacturer? People like me, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to Pennsylvania because I can't find these vehicles for sale in Maryland because the legislature is mandating it. So frankly, how does this help anyone? Because all I have to do is find another state that doesn't have a silly mandate like this and go do business, bring it back into my state, title it, and go back and do work. So, Madam Speaker, just a bad bill.
Madam Speaker.
Chairman of the committee.
The opponents are doing a good job of opposing a bill that is not on this floor right now. So let's talk about transit vans. My company has a transit van. We use it in our operations to clean up hazardous waste and to transport toxic waste. It's not our main vehicle. That's what we use our box trucks for. So what good is this bill? I'll tell you what good this bill is. It will create an incentive so that my company will be able to afford to buy an e-transit van or a pickup truck or a box truck, and then I can run that vehicle for 3-4 years and run the numbers. You know, it's an interesting thing. My wife has 77,000 miles on her electric vehicle, and this year she spent her first $200 of maintenance. I want you to think about that for a moment. As a business person, I like the idea of having a pickup truck or a van or a box truck that has substantially lower maintenance costs. I also like the idea of having a vehicle for which the per mile fuel cost is 1/6 to 1/10 that of what diesel fuel is right now. I don't like cutting those checks for $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 every month for diesel, and I would love to run an experiment in real time to see whether these vehicles will save money and increase profits for my company. Yet another reason to vote for this bill.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Just a point of clarification for the body. We are discussing medium-duty trucks and heavy-duty trucks. All of the vehicles that were just described by multiple people are light-duty vehicles. Okay? Medium-duty trucks, Google search, referred as class 6 through 7, which have a GVW of 19,501 pounds to 33,000 pounds. These are the U-Haul trucks. These are the large box trucks that you see that you may go rent or are used for commercial purposes only. I appreciate the debate, but we're not talking about apples. We're talking about oranges, and let's try to stay on the bill. Thank you.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Harvard.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the bill, and while I think that's the definition online, the actual bill defines a medium-duty vehicle as 8,500 pounds, so it's maybe out of line, and the heavy-duty it says is 14,000 pounds. So on my farm, the truck that I use would absolutely qualify. The one that I use to move my livestock around would definitely qualify under this bill. My truck, I think, is about 11,000 pounds, so it would be in this medium-duty vehicle category. So I just want to make sure that for those of you who are concerned about the impact on farming, you know, in the long haul, as we tweak this and as California changes their rules and we copy them, it definitely will include farming equipment for sure. Even though it's not a tractor, it is what I use on my farm, and so it would have an impact on farms.
Madam Speaker.
Yes, gentleman from Montgomery.
I respectfully move the previous question.
Question before the House is the previous question. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Ayes have it. HB 230 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 230, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 239, Accessory Dwelling Unit Policy Task Force.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 239, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 495, Early Childhood Development Child Care Scholarship Program alterations.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 136 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 495, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 607, Sediment Control Plans, Discharge Permits for Stormwater Associated with Construction Activity and Notice and Comment Requirements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate?
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing Gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the floor leader rise, please?
Vice Chair of the committee.
Good afternoon. This bill's been amended.
Yes, it has.
Okay, because I'm reading the testimony about the bill. The Department of the Environment had 4 concerns about the bill. Did you address that in the amendments?
Yes, we did.
And then there were other organizations that, hold on, let me go, that were opposed. Did you address any of their opposition? The Maryland Building Industry, the Maryland Building Association, who else? NAIOP was opposed, and a number of others that I can't read. Did they come to the table? Let us know how you amended it, please.
So, yes, they did come to the table. They are now supportive of the bill as amended.
And tell us what it does now, please.
So it requires the Department of the Environment to do every 5 years, a sediment plan review of the specifications for sediment plans. And in certain situations with a general discharge permit, it extends the time period for an interested party to make comments.
All right, so it's more of a reporting thing, and
It's partly reporting, but also there is this 5-year requirement to look at sediment control plans.
Okay, and the Department of the Environment's okay with it now as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 607, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 608, Human Relations, Housing Discrimination, Service Dogs.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 608, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 808, Reproductive Health Protection Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing Gentlelady from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Body, this bill, I think, was very, very well intentioned, and I totally understand the sponsor and the supporters for why they felt the need to bring this bill forward. We had a lively discussion in our committee about this bill, but I do have some lingering concerns with it. Mainly, basically what the bill does is it protects the information. So if somebody from out of state comes here to have abortion care services, if it's illegal in their state, this would not allow for their state to gain access to the information that we have here. So it would protect the medical information, et cetera, that we have in the state of Maryland, even in the case of prosecution in another state. And I understand why the sponsor wanted to do that. My concern is not specifically with that, but with the fact that many people who molest and abuse children bring them to places where it's easier for them to get abortions to hide the evidence of what they've done. And now in another state, in another place, when they go back, if they are caught and there's any attempt to prosecute this person for the rape of a minor, they will not be able to get the information from our state to appropriately prosecute this person. They're not going to be able to talk to the Uber driver. They're not going to be able to talk to any of the medical staff. This law is going to prevent other states from being able to get information from our state when something like this occurs, and the only evidence that we have of it is that the child was taken to an abortion clinic in Maryland. And so I will be very red on this bill.
Sponsor of the bill.
Thank you, and I appreciate the delegates' concerns. However, I do believe that the concerns are a bit unfounded. This bill, rape is still a crime here in the state of Maryland, and so if someone is seeking to find information with regards to a rape case, they would still be able to do that here in the state of Maryland. They would still be able to investigate that case here in the state of Maryland, because that's still a crime here in the state of Maryland. What this bill does, though, it does protect our medical providers. It protects them for if they are licensed in multiple states, say they are licensed here in the state of Maryland as well as in the state of West Virginia to practice health care. And that medical provider provides abortion services here in the state of Maryland. What this bill does is stays in the state of West Virginia, where abortion is currently banned, that if they lose their license in the state of West Virginia, they will not lose their medical license here in the state of Maryland simply because they are providing abortion care that is legal here in the state of Maryland. The purpose of this bill is to protect our providers, is to protect individuals who are not only seeking abortion care, but those who are assisting those who are seeking abortion cares. Yes, it protects the Uber driver. It protects the social worker that's making the referral. It is protecting the nurse practitioner that is assisting the physician. It is protecting our medical providers and those that are assisting everyone else in helping a woman obtain the care that she needs and that she wants. That's what this bill does. And so I urge all of my colleagues to please cast a green vote in favor of this bill. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 98 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 808, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 21. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 62, Land Use, Public Service Companies, Pollinator-Friendly Vegetation Management, and Utility-Designated Pollinator Areas.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 104 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 62 having received the Senate Bill 62 having received the constitutional majority is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 269, Currency Campaign Finance Prohibitions, Disclosure by Financial Institutions.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Got an amendment at the desk. Amendment 383029/1.
Amendment number 1.
So be considered reading an amendment.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This amendment comes courtesy of all the constituents that reached out to me last week, so it's proof that I read my text messages and my emails. Last Wednesday, there was a video released by James O'Keefe. Used to be with Project Veritas. Now I guess he's out on his own. And the video in which O'Keefe Media Group, you can find it on YouTube, he's kind of famous for doing these ambush videos. And he starts off the video with a statement. The FEC data shows that some senior citizens across the U.S. have been donating thousands of times per year. Some of these individuals' names, addresses are attached to over $200,000 in campaign contributions. This is James O'Keefe with OMG. I'm here in Annapolis, Maryland, at an individual's home who has donated a total of $217,000 and made 12,000 different contributions in a 3-year period, all donations made through Act Blue. Well, that sounds odd to me because I know we have state and federal donation limitations. The video goes on to show another voter in Annapolis, Maryland, who in the year 2022 allegedly contributed 1,009 times to Act Blue at a tune of almost $19,000. This means she would have had to donate 3 times a day. Now, the interesting thing is when he shows up at her house that asked her this, she's like, well, yeah, I made some donations, but it wasn't anything close to what you're telling me. Another gentleman from Montgomery County, gentleman made over 31,000 individual contributions to various different causes for a total of $230,000. And when he asked them, he said, well, yeah, we've donated through Act Blue, but we didn't donate anywhere near that amount. So the report leads you to believe that some of the people and some of these groups are using addresses of known donors, many who live in Maryland, and then using them to launder money to their favorite political organizations. It's troubling to see our citizens being used this way. Then the news, the day after this video was released, the Maryland State Board of Elections administrator quits the same day. Now, I know that she was planning on retiring in the summer, but I don't know if this was a coincidence of just unfortunate timing or what. But I believe since we now know this problem exists, it's up to us to address it and investigate it. So the amendment at the desk is simply a study for the state prosecutor.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll certainly defer to the committee on the substance of the bill and the amendment, but I would just ask that we not create conspiracy theories on the House floor in real time. Administrator Lamone is in her early 80s. She has had a long, distinguished career. As you admitted in your conjuring of that conspiracy theory, had already planned her retirement. It has nothing to do with any report that you're discussing.
I also said
please,
coincidence.
So please
I also
debate-
said, I have the floor, Madam Speaker. My majority leader is clearly interrupting
But I
as I'm explaining the
called
amendment.
on the majority leader, so who goes by what I call on?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think the point's been made. It would just be good if we kept to the facts of our amendments and our bills and not conjure up conspiracy theories in real time. I think we have enough of that when we scroll on our phones. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's not a conspiracy theory. If there's just more than a coincidence. This amendment simply has the state prosecutor offering a study of the past 4 years for contribution irregularities, investigating excessive contributions made to the state and federal campaign finances in this state, identifies contributions made under incorrect or unverified names, and documents those reports of contributions and irregularities, and then a report to be due to the General Assembly by next year. It's a pretty simple amendment. There is obviously likely a problem, and look, for us to look into it, I mean, that's our duty. That's our job. So with that, Madam Speaker, I ask this body to move the amendment. Thank you.
Vice Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Delegate, for sharing this amendment in advance. I would like to request that we make sure, colleagues, that we submit amendments that are related to the bills that are at hand. This bill is about campaign finance when it comes to currency that is used. And it ensures that when currency is used, that is United States currency, all other currencies are prohibited under this legislation. That's what this bill is about. This amendment has absolutely nothing to do with the bill that is under consideration. But in terms of the substance of the amendment, Delegate, I think it's very dangerous for us as a body to listen to and submit amendments and to create policy that is related to people who are provocatively doing investigations that are unfounded, and to bring those as amendments on the House floor. I have never seen whatever this video is, and I think it's dangerous for us to be legislating based on random videos that we're seeing online that are perhaps unfounded, and for us to bring those as amendments. In addition to that, the state prosecutor is responsible for investigating and continuously investigates campaign violations. As a matter of fact, colleagues, any of you right now, including the sponsor of this amendment, can go online and submit a complaint. The good delegate could go online right now and submit a complaint to be investigated by the state prosecutor. This amendment is not needed. It is not germane to the bill, and I request that you resist the amendment. Thank you.
Gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The bill deals with finance, campaign finance prohibitions. That's what this amendment deals with. This amendment, or the bill, deals with digital currency and donations made outside the United States. We don't know if there's a problem with money coming in and using duplicate addresses. And look, I've heard so many times on this House floor that there's no campaign finance rules, there's no election interference. Look, I'm asking you just to study the problem, just to look at it. There's never a problem if you put your head in the sand and refuse to acknowledge it. Now, this video was released 5 days ago. It was shared all across the internet and social media accounts. It made its way around in Republican circles. And look, there's no time to put an emergency bill in to study this, and plus that would get, we drop legislation, that would be next year. This is a very simple amendment that fits on this bill that shows our constituents, you know what, when there's fraudulent activities going on, we in Maryland care about it, and we're going to investigate it. That's it. That's our due diligence. That would be the right thing to do. I press the amendment, Madam Speaker.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? I heard 3 people. Roll call.
Madam Speaker.
To explain my vote.
Yes, gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, it's unfortunate that we do all get our news from different sources, but I would encourage everyone on this floor to take a look at this report. It's a video report, and James O'Keefe visited quite a few houses in Annapolis. He was here in Maryland and asked residents. This first one denied donating $35,000 in over 3,000 separate installments. The next one said they gave $5 to Act Blue every once in a while, but not the thousands of dollars that showed up on a campaign finance report. So this is a real problem, and we will certainly follow up with a letter to the state prosecutor and the Board of Elections, but this would be a chance for us to speak as a body. Thank you.
On the amendment, clerk will take the call. Amendment fails. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Senate Bill 269 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will take the call. There being 136 in affirmative. Senate Bill 269, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 552, Family Prosperity Act of 2023.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 99 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 552, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 553, Income Tax Subtraction Modification for Military Retirement Income, Keep Our Heroes Home Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 553, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 624, Income Tax Automated External Defibrillator Tax Credit, Joe Shea Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 138 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 624, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 22. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 211, Probation Before Judgment, Probation Agreements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There be 104 votes in the affirmative. Senate Bill 211, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 354, Income Tax Checkoff, Maryland Veterans Trust Fund.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 354, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 549, Economic Development, Build Our Future Grant Pilot Program and Fund Innovation Economy Infrastructure Act of 2023.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 125 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 549, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 634, Natural Resources, Oyster Inspection and Severance Taxes Increase.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Yes.
Thank you. I saw in the title of the bill the word taxes and increase, and I really was worried. I was like, wow, taxes increase. We're going to vote for a tax increase. But I did enough look into it and talked to enough with my friends from the Eastern Shore where they have oysters, which we do not in Western Maryland. We like to eat them, to discover that, in fact, this is a severance tax that the oystering community, the waterman community, in fact, wants and has developed and has worked hard on because it helps them to further their industry. It helps them to secure the additional shell and other resources that they need to facilitate an industry that's very important to the state and very important to the people who live and work along the Chesapeake Bay. So I hope that people understand what this is and what it is not and can support this bill, even though it has the word tax and increase in it at the same time. Probably need to work on number or how we put the bills together. That would help a little bit. You could just say, oyster inspection and severance taxes, issues relating to, or something like that. But I appreciate it very much, and I'll vote in support of the bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Chairman of the Environment and Tax Committee.
Yet another nefarious plot of the Environment and Transportation Committee to work with the business community. Please vote favorably.
Gentlelady from Hartford.
Thank you. I just want to confirm with the chair of the committee, if I might, that it says on the testimony that the watermen were opposed to it. Did they change their position? It says Maryland Watermen's Association oral testimony unfavorable from Robert Brown.
Floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That is not true. They were all in support.
How weird.
That is weird. I'm sorry for that.
That's okay. We'll talk to Robert Brown offline. Thanks.
Gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I can assure you that every waterman that's related in the oyster industry wants this bill desperately. Can I just say something? And I've been in office for 9 years, and I had one of the most enjoyable, engaging committee hearings because I have the House cross-file with the committee chairman. Of course, we had this debate about 20, 30 minutes ago that this is our job, we do what we do, but in that setting, I brought a very serious bill with the right intentions, and I appreciated the committee moving that bill forward. As a Republican that picks his spots to bring tax increase bills, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it because I have one of these key industries that if I was ever hired by the voters to do my job, is to cover for these industries, and the watermen quite often find themselves at a disadvantage. And I will say with all sincerity, Mr. Chairman, that this bill means the world to us, and we want to thank you and the committee for delivering for us, and you for delivering one of the committee hearings that I will always remember. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 634, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 746, Mobile and Manufactured Homes, Relocation Plans and Sales of Communities, Manufactured Housing Modernization Act of 2023.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 746, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed.
Madam Speaker,
Yes.
vote change Senate Bill 549 to red.
Vote change?
Madam Speaker, yes, on SB 211 from green to red, please.
Any St. Mary's?
Yep. Vote change from HB 239 to green.
Any other vote changes? Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 24. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 233, criminal law, child pornography, accessing with intent to view. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the chair of the committee.
Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 rewords the operative language of the bill from a person may not knowingly and intentionally access with intent to view to a person may not knowingly and intentionally access and intentionally view. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 5, hate crimes, civil remedy. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 42, child custody, relocation of child, expedited hearing, assurance of child safety act. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 67, clerks of the circuit courts, civil commissions, presentation and reporting. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered to pass for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 99, circuit courts and district courts, dishonored checks, service charges. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 115, juvenile court, concurrent jurisdiction, juvenile offenses on military installations. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 185, Maryland State Police Gun Center, firearms surrendered under final protective orders. Favorable.
Question for the House, adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 253, estates and trust, registers of wills, electronic filing, and signatures. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Gentleman standing up for a reason? Okay. Are there any amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed. Passed to third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 340, criminal law, false statements, emergency or commission of crime, Anti-Swatting Act of 2023.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 342, Baltimore County Circuit Court's judgeships, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered past the third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary, report number 25. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 100, Real Property Actions to Repossess, Proof of Rental Licensure, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 173, Automatic Expungement Clarification, favorable amounts. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the Vice Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Moves to much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendments conform the bill to House Bill 189, which passed the House earlier this session. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now to adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered passed for third reading. That ends the work at the desk. Any delegation announcements? Any caucus announcements? Vice Chair of the Democratic Caucus. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Democratic Caucus will meet tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in the Prince George's County House Delegation Room.
Okay. Republican Caucus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Republican Caucus will meet at 9 a.m. in room 145.
Are there any personal or guests? Recognizing the gentleman from, I don't know, Chair of the Committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. House Economic Matters Committee, as soon as we adjourn, we'll be meeting in the Silver Room. Again, the Silver Room right next door for a very brief vote. So right after we adjourn, please meet me over there for a vote. Thank you.
I don't know what.
Madam Speaker.
Personal or guest announcements?
Madam Speaker.
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh,
I
thank
see
you.
you too.
All right, thank
But
you.
I had two people at the same time.
All right, I couldn't see you. You see, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Gentleman from Montgomery. Go ahead.
Thank you. You see, Madam Speaker, I jumped the gun and got too excited because it's somebody's very special, their birthday today. You see, the good delegate, permission to use delegates' names?
Permission granted.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. My dear friend and district mate, Delegate Emily Shetty, always talks about being a good human. And if you look up this person in the dictionary, if you look up good human, this person's picture will be in the dictionary. He's extremely smart and he's extremely nice, which is an all too rare combination. He has such an eye for detail. That's why he's great at the Joint Audit Committee. And I also, he's a devoted father to his wife, a devoted husband to his wife, Emily Kiernan. Maybe you can tell it's the end of session. And a devoted father to his children, even though they make him sleep deprived, Charlie and Leo. Please welcome and please join me in honoring this mensch, which means gentleman in Hebrew, the Honorable Jared Solomon. Happy birthday.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use.
Yes. Permission granted.
Permission granted. Thank you. So everybody, just real quick, I'd like to
announce that McComas' birthday is today. Happy birthday, Susan.
Gentlelady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I had a guest here, but they had kids and had to go. But I wanted to acknowledge that my really good friend from elementary school was here, Molly Smith, and her two sons, Asher and Braden Smith, here to watch the political process. They are from Poolsville, Maryland.
Gentlelady from Montgomery. I don't know which hat you're doing, so go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you. Colleagues, I'd like to ask you to join me in welcoming some very special guests that are in the galleries behind me. The Caucus of African American Leaders was established in 2011 in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, by a group of renowned community leaders. The convener, the Honorable Carl Snowden, founded the organization with the sole purpose of advocating for the human rights of African Americans to create a just society. Now the caucus has expanded to have membership in all 24 jurisdictions, and we'd like to thank the team at Odin Strategic Design Group for facilitating their first Advocacy Day. Please welcome these very special guests of the Legislative Black Caucus of Maryland, the Caucus of African American Leaders. Please stand.
Madam Speaker.
Yes.
Madam Speaker, I rise today once again to acknowledge a very special lady in my life. My oldest child, Sanaya Simmons, sitting up in the gallery. She turns 16 on Wednesday. So I just wanted to wish her a happy birthday to my firstborn, Sanaya.
Any
Madam
other guest
Speaker.
announcements?
Madam Speaker.
Yes. Yeah, I know, but I was finished asking any more guest announcements.
Yes, Madam Speaker.
You have a guest.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like everyone to know that I have my community liaison that she just broke her neck trying to get up there on that balcony. She is so afraid of heights. Miss Elizabeth Chambers, show everybody, just come up and wave, said she wanted to be with us. She didn't have to worry about that fear. She got the security guard holding her hand. So that means that she has the fear. But I want to know, let you know, she wanted to come here to see all of y'all doing the very best that y'all always do. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Howard.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, I'd like to ask you to join me in welcoming a guest and a constituent. Madam Speaker, permission to use delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Delegates, please join Delegate Hill and myself in welcoming one of our constituents, Antonio Clay Hardy, who is here learning the legislative process and getting to know how his state government works for him. Please stand.
Any other personal or guest announcements? Okay, you know the drill. Today is Monday. Yes, hold on. Yes.
I apologize, Madam Speaker. Yes. I was waiting for the subcommittee announcements. The Housing and Real Property Subcommittee will meet at 5:30 via Zoom. Housing and Real Property will meet at 5:30 via Zoom. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any other announcements that are not what's going to come up next?
Madam Speaker, I forgot two other guests that's up there in the balcony. Ava and what's the other one's name? Let me get her name right. I got to make sure that I get her name right. Stand up, babies. That's all you have to do. Come on. Let everybody see that you come to see us. Oh, you so Leanne. Oh, God, look at them. They are beautiful. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. You want me to continue to stand?
No. Right now we have someone else that's getting up. I was going to say Anne Arundel, but you both
Yes.
are from So I don't know who got up first.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to announce from the Lost and Found Caucus, we have a item that goes around one's neck. It's a piece of jewelry. If you can identify it, it's yours.
The lady from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I too wanted to make sure that I identified the Public Health and Minority Health Disparities Subcommittee will be meeting tomorrow at 11 a.m. on Zoom. Thank you.
Okay. Any other subcommittees that are meeting, although I called that earlier. But okay. Will the protocol chair stand, please? Yes, aren't you the protocol chair?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you know how I am. I need my glasses, even though I'm still just 29. I want y'all to know that. But I need glasses. Okay, are we ready? Come on down, you sunshines. There they are. Oh my God, look at this. This is Monday. Monday. You know this is a long day. But the speaker is letting us get out here early. It looks like it. And I thank you, Madam Speaker, for letting us out early. But I want to call each and every one of these wonderful sunshines that I have this week. And they are going to be taking care of y'all this week, so y'all just bear with them. They will do everything y'all ask them to do. Okay, first one up, Ian Boatman from Cecil County, District 35B, Perryville High School. Lynette Estafil, Howard County, District 13, Reservoir High School. Sarah King, Hartford County, District 7B, Falston High School. Savannah Parker, Washington County, District 2A, Smithburg High School. Saw Hero, Montgomery County, District 16, Richmond Montgomery High School. And finally, Julia Stanley, Anne Arundel County, District 23, Archbishop Spalding High School. Listen, you wonderful, what? And she's Prince George's County. Wait a minute, you know they keep making a mistake on this paper. She's Prince George's County too, y'all. Give her up for Prince George's County also. Oh my God, she's representing too. But it's okay, baby. It's okay. You just keep on working. Keep on working. Madam Speaker, these are the wonderful sunshines this week. They're going to be working hard this week. I didn't heard you going to work us hard this week. So now we're going to work the sunshines. But I want y'all to know we still love you. All right, come. Did I miss one? Who did I miss? Wait a minute. Saw Hero, did I get you? I did get you? Okay. Montgomery County, I thought I called. I did.
She got them all.
Okay. All right,
Thank
I got them all. That's all right. If I don't get you today, I will get you on Friday. Okay. You have a nice week with us. Thank you. Thank you, Sunshines, and thank you, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use the delegate's name?
Permission granted.
Stand up. Delegate Andre Johnson and I'm sorry for the late announcement, but our crew just got here. We have the Youth Enrichment Society from Hartford County, and Body, will you please help me welcome them? They came down to do a tour of Annapolis, and we'd like to welcome them up in the front gallery. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Anything else from anyone else? Seeing none, quorum call before adjournment.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? Clerk will take the call. There being 136 members present, the House is still in session, recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the House stands adjourned until Tuesday, April 4th at 10 a.m., Legislative Day, March 26th.